Well, g'day, Johnny. Welcome to the show.
Hey Pete, good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too, man. Hey, we just like to start off, could you tell us where you are in the world at the moment?
Well, mate, I believe you're all the way on the other side of the planet, and I am all the way over. Believe it or not, as I look at my window, a sunny England day. So I'm in my hometown of the UK right now.
Wow. So did you grow up there or did you grow up in Australia?
No, I grew up in Australia, but this is home at the moment. I've been travelling around the world for the last 5 years, but this is my base, for want of a better word.
Awesome. Awesome, dude. All right, well, let's get stuck into it. What are you working on at the moment? What project are you working on that's sort of you're getting excited about that's kind of taking your attention and focus?
Okay. Well, I've just launched a brand new company called Unlimited Success, as well as, of course, my own personal branding, www.johnnycast.com. And Unlimited Success and Johnny Cast is really about personal development and personal growth. And I'm really excited about both of those projects because they're still not necessarily in their early stages, but still definitely in their development stages. And we're looking at really bringing personal development programs, personal growth programs, really to anybody who wants to improve and design the quality of their own lives.
Okay, so just to clarify, when you say personal development and that sort of thing, what does that mean for you? So everyone's got their own version of that. What does that mean for you?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, everybody feels that they need to, you box in. It's like, what process do you use, or what system do you use, or do you just use NLP, or do you just use coaching? So for me, personal growth can be anything as simple as, believe it or not, a quote that inspires somebody, a thought that gets somebody thinking. It can be a training program that really totally changes somebody's paradigm about the way that they view the world. It can be about reading a book. Personal growth is about, we're all growing at the end of the day. It's just, where do you want to take your life? So personal growth for me is about helping somebody ultimately design a life that they choose, and really using any modality or different methodologies to help that person create that lifestyle in the way that they want to.
Okay, excellent, man, excellent. So you haven't always been doing this. What were you doing before? Because I know years and years ago, you used to be like, I think it was a personal trainer. Was it a personal coach in that way? Is that right? What were you doing? Even before that, what were you doing that led you down this path?
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of people ask me how I got into coaching, how I got into personal development, how I got into being a speaker and a trainer. And, if I think about my career, there's always been, for want of a better word, a strong leadership strand in everything that I've ever done.
Yeah.
When I first left school, I worked at, it's now known as Myers, but I worked at Grace Brothers as a management cadet. So I was one of their first management cadets. From there, I went and worked at a retail store managing other people. From there, I went and actually tapped into my creative side. I think it's important that when we're creating a life that we truly desire, when we design the life that we want, that we have both right brain and logical brain. So I went and studied film, theatre and television because, I've always been very, very, what's the word I'm looking for, adamant that one should live a life that they love. And so for me at that point in time, it was about exploring film, it was about exploring theatre, it was exploring television. And as you know, I was a long, long time ago, but I happened to also be on the very first reality TV show in Australia, Pete, so don't hold that against me.
No.
I was in the very first Australian Big Brother, and that was over like 10 years ago now. But the reason why I mention that is because that was certainly one of the catalysts that led me to being on this path.
Yeah.
The reason for that was because, I accomplished a lot of things in my life, but after Big Brother, I was kind of at a sticking point. I didn't know where I wanted to go. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew that I loved to help people. So I went and studied psychotherapy for a little while, and that kind of just wasn't my thing. I wanted something a little bit more dynamic. And again, that was even more frustrating because I was like, well, where am I going? What am I doing? And it was at that point in time that somebody introduced me to coaching. And I liked the coaching methodology. I liked the way that coaches work. It's a little bit more dynamic. It's a little bit more forward-thinking than psychotherapy. Long story short, I ended up sitting in on a coaching course. I ended up teaching part of that coaching course. I ended up building my client base. And next thing you know, I ended up working with, a really great speaker who was a great mentor of mine for a very long time, Chris Howard. I'm sure you'd know Chris.
Mm-hmm.
We traveled around the world extensively. I had the great privilege and the great honor of working with him. And from there, of course, one naturally branches off and one naturally does their own thing. Okay. So that's how I got to being here right now.
Okay, awesome, dude. So you touched on the Big Brother thing.
Yep.
So did you sort of, was that like some kind of launching pad? Like, have you been able to leverage that publicity? Like, is that something that helped you along the way, or was that sort of, how was that instrumental in sort of launching your career?
Well, it was instrumental in two ways. Number one, yes, I did leverage that probably for about 2 to 3 years after the show.
Yeah.
So for about 2 to 3 years after the show, I was doing some presenting, I was doing some television work, I was doing stuff like that. But the truth is, I also, I accomplished some of the things I wanted to accomplish in television. Like, I did some presenting work, I did some work in the media, but I just wasn't feeling quite fulfilled.
Yeah.
So to say that it launched me would almost be it launched me because I got there and I kind of went, well, actually, this is not where I want to be. And so then that set me on a discovery of self, a journey of self-discovery, sort of saying, well, where do I want to be? What do I want to do? And it launched me into this career here from personal reasons. Because like I said, I was like, I don't really know where I'm going. I don't really know what I'm doing. So then I got a coach. And next thing you know, I ended up coaching other people myself.
Okay, so when you first got a coach, what was like a shift for you that really took place that you understood, this is really important, you really need a coach?
I'll be really honest, when I first got a coach, like a lot of people, I was actually really quite skeptical. I was like, why do you need a coach for? Like, what's the purpose of getting coaching? And, no, you don't need coaches. But, the more I got into it, the first couple of sessions, I realized that, number one, somebody who worked for themselves, it was really good just to be able to sit down, have a chat to somebody about the current problems that I was facing, look at the potential solutions that were being provided to me by somebody that had no other desire other than to provide solutions for me. So like a family member, you can't really have conversations because they're biased.
Yeah.
A friend, again, they're pretty biased. A therapist, they're great, but, I needed somebody who was a bit more goal-orientated, a bit more focused on my outcomes, and that's what coaching was perfect for.
Yeah. And do you still have a coach?
I do. I have 2 coaches. I have one for personal, like just life in general, and I have a business coach as well.
Okay. So, look, for me personally, like I'm getting started in this whole business thing. Like I've been self-employed. It's like a job where you work harder than anyone else and get paid less than everyone else for the last 6 years. And kind of I'm starting out to go, okay, look, let's really get out and build a business that kind of, and have leverage and passive income, all that great stuff that everyone talks about. But in the beginning, you don't really have much money, and it's kind of, you need some kind of direction, but it's so overwhelming. There's so much to do, and you're just one person. So how do you overcome that kind of that overwhelm of, I want to get so much done, but there's just me and I got no money? What sort of advice could you give to someone in my position? I won't say in that position, I'll say in my position.
What I would say is, even when you do have a lot more money, there's still always more things to be done. So there's always going to be things to be done. You know what? Time management, really in essence, that's what you're kind of asking me, is how do I manage my time? How do I manage the important things? And one of the great things I heard is to make the important things the important things. Nature abhors a vacuum. So we're always going to fill our time with something. You need to determine what you're going to fill that time with. And if you don't have much money initially and you're doing everything up front, number one is prioritize. You need to prioritize, and number two is you need to plan. Now, does that mean that I always do that every day? No, I'd like to. But we need to prioritize and we need to make plans for sure. And then once you start getting some cash in, be willing to, because money is not the issue, not normally. It's usually the willingness to let go. You know, for people like to keep busy. People like to do things because it makes them feel important. It makes them feel like they're running around, or they don't trust other people with certain parts of their business. So yes, the money is definitely a consideration, but the other thing is the willingness to let go of those tasks that aren't making you revenue generating tasks.
Okay, and so what kind of questions could I be asking myself, say, to work out whether something, I'm doing this and it's important, it's taking me further? Like, what questions do you ask to actually realize what is important and what's not, what's taking you closer and further away?
Okay, great. So the very first thing you want to do is you want to have a clear set of goals. So I know that kind of sounds like unexciting. You want to have a clear set of goals, and you want to ask yourself, well, actually, what do I want to be focusing on, let's say, the next 6 months, the next 3 months, or whatever it might be, the next 12 months max. And then ask yourself, is this activity that I'm doing right now the best use of my time in relationship to that goal? So let's say that your goal is to increase your customer base by 5% or 10%. And you wake up, and first thing in the morning, I can't help but notice that you've got a couple of books behind you, and you are reading, let's just say, Awaken the Giant Within, which is a great personal development book. It's probably going to help you to some degree, but if you want to increase your customers, you might be better off looking at a marketing book, for example. Or you might be better off waking up in the morning and finding a blog on marketing or getting new customers or something like that, rather than just that personal development book. Please don't get me wrong. Personal development is important, but it's like maybe you read that last thing at nighttime before you go to bed. So one of the key questions to ask yourself is what I'm doing right now the best use of my time, and is it also giving me the best use of return on investment?
Okay.
So, for example, you might be doing a task like checking emails for, whatever it might be. Let's say you got a whole bunch of emails to check. The question is, can you maybe outsource that to somebody for $5 or $10, and therefore saving yourself saving yourself an hour's worth of time? You could be coaching somebody for an hour for $100, so therefore you'd be better off to spend your 1 hour doing that rather than checking emails.
Excellent. All right, man. So
does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. Yeah, like actually, and it's not always about the revenue. It has to be making money. Like there's other aspects of your business you got to do though, I guess too. But that's kind of a big portion of your time is the money making aspect. If you're going to be in this for business, it's a business.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. So do you actually have, sort of moving on now, do you actually have a system, the formula, the blueprint, the whatever fancy name you got, or do you sort of tailor what needs to be done for people that they can follow their own path based on what they need to be doing now? How do you work that out?
Okay, so do I have a system? Look, everybody has a system simply because people like systems, for sure. So if you were to go to my website, you'd see there that I've got the 7.5 steps blueprint formula to living a life that you really love and designing a life that you love, because ultimately that's what I'm about. I'm about you designing a life that you love, whether that be as an entrepreneur, whether that be as somebody who works for somebody else, or whether that be as a business owner. Just you decide what you want and you decide on how you create that. And yes, I've got, having worked literally with tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people around the world, between Australia, New Zealand, Hong Kong, Europe, whatever it might be, coaching people one-on-one, having done this for the last sort of 10 years now, I have looked at what would be like the 7.5 common steps or the common things that we need to create a life that we really love. So let me just give you one or two pieces of that. Number one is to find meaning in your life, is to find something that's meaningful to you. There's no point in doing work, or there's no point in running a business that has no meaning for you. Like, I know plenty of people who are very wealthy, but they hate their jobs. And then, of course, I know plenty of people who are very poor and they also hate their job. But I also know people who are very wealthy and love their work, and people who are very poor and love their work.
Yeah.
Ultimately, because they've defined what they want for themselves, they've created some meaning around that. So one of the things to designing a life that you love, which in essence is what I'm about, is to find, you know, some meaningful work for you.
Okay. So, and what will be like? Yeah, that's the first thing. Once you found that meaning, what's sort of maybe the second?
Actually, the first thing is to, you know, one of the things that's actually not the first thing. It's just one of the key things for people.
Okay.
The first thing is to accept and identify that you are your own boss. So, you know, the world has now changed. The economy has now changed. You know, I was literally just before we got on the call here today, I was just reading a lot about the state of the pension over here in the UK. And, you know, people aren't going to have enough money to retire and things like that. And basically step number one is to recognize you are your own boss, and to recognize that you, and ultimately you, are going to create the life that you love or the life that you don't love. Whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a business owner, whether you're an intrapreneur. And an intrapreneur, by the way, is somebody who works for an organization, but you still want to be a star inside of that organization. You still want to realize that in that organization, that boss of yours is just your best customer for right now. So, you know, and then you might go and find another company to work for, but that's just your customer. They're still your best customer. Nobody's going to wake up and make you wealthy. Nobody's going to wake up and design your life for you. Nobody's going to wake up and create the life that you love. You need to be willing to do that yourself. And once you accept that, rather than being at the effect side of the equation and saying, well, no, the government has to do it or my boss has to do it, you have to realize that you do it and only you. Then you can start to lay out a plan for yourself.
Excellent. Well, let's say someone wanted to get started doing similar sort of thing that you're doing, the coaching and designing, helping people design the life that they want. What would be maybe the first thing, or what's some great questions they could ask themselves, so they're not scraping their knees in the industry for years and years trying to figure it all out? What's some questions they could ask themselves?
Okay, in regards to designing a life that they love,
or following in your footsteps. To, let's say someone wanted to become like Johnny Cass, right? They wanted to and do what you do, and yeah, they get it.
I wouldn't wish that on anyone. Okay, let's say somebody wanted to sort of do the work that I do. Well, I mean, if you want to become a coach, you've got to ask yourself. You know, here's what I'll say in a nutshell type of a statement. I remember once when I first was getting started out, and, you know, I actually had a mentor and I had my coach, and I was a bit of a turning point, and my mentor was getting a bit frustrated with me. And I'll never forget, yes, that's right, my coach was getting frustrated with me because we just weren't getting any traction on certain things. And I remember what he said to me, and to this day I hold it dearly. He said to me, Johnny, your problem is you're interested in a lot of things, but you're committed to nothing. And it was at that point in time he said to me, what are you going to commit to? Not what are you interested in, but what are you going to commit to? And it was at that point in time, you know, I went away and I really thought about it, and I said, you know what? I'm going to commit to this path. I'm going to commit to being a coach. I'm going to commit to being a speaker. I'm going to commit to being a trainer. I'm going to commit to, you know, improving the quality of people's lives. And it was in that moment that everything changed. Because when you're interested, there's a subtle difference. When it gets a bit difficult, you kind of go, yeah, whatever, you know, I'll just go and do something else. But when you're committed, when the problems show up, then you'll stick to your guns. And let me assure you, there will always be problems. It's just, are you willing to overcome those problems? The interested person says, you know what, I'm just going to go somewhere else. I'm just going to do something else now.
So
it's a little bit like a relationship.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you know, your career is a little bit like any relationship that you have. In a relationship, when you're kind of just interested in the relationship, when it gets difficult, you say, you know what, I'm out of here. And you go and move on to another relationship. And your business or your work or anybody who wants to accomplish great things in their lives commits to the greatness of their work rather than just goes, oh, all right, well, I'll just turn up to work because I'm kind of interested and I have to do it.
Excellent, man. That's tops. So it's commitment. Choose what to commit and choose to...
If you ask me, be committed. Be committed, you know, and then stick to your guns.
Excellent.
It's not an easy path, but then, you know, nothing in life is always easy. Anything worth doing is is going to be a bit difficult anyway.
Yeah. So when you first got started, how did you get your first clients? How did you overcome yourself to say, hey, I'm actually good enough to accept this money for telling someone what to do or asking the right questions? How did you get your first client?
Well, I mean, I was personal training a little bit when I was personal training. So for me, I kind of transitioned from personal training to coaching. So what I would do is with my personal training clients that I just used to go to the gym and do some running with and do some weights with and stuff like that, I would now, one session like out of every 4, I would sit down and do a coaching session with them. So it was kind of a bit of a natural progression. When I definitely moved on from, personal training to coaching full time, the question of value came up quite a fair bit. And a lot of people always used to ask me that question, like, how do I ask for that much money? Or how do I ask for a certain amount of money? Number one is you've got to realize that the money that you ask for, the money that you charge, is a reflection on the value that you think that you're bringing to that person. So let's just say you're a coach and you're in Australia and you're only charging $50 an hour, as opposed to somebody who's charging, let's say, $5,000 an hour, or even whatever, $1,000 an hour. I pretty much guarantee you that both of those coaches will probably be doing very similar work. Right? So the one who charges $50 an hour, as opposed to the one who charges $1,000 an hour, they're probably going to have a very similar style or a somewhat similar approach. But there's a lot of difference in value. And the person who's charging $1,000 an hour is probably spent the time to determine what impact that coaching session is going to have on that person's life. So they've said, well, you know what, the value I bring to you is I'm going to help you financially, spiritually, emotionally, in your relationship, in your career, in your life in general. What's that worth to you? Whereas somebody who's only charging $50 an hour probably hasn't sat down and thought about that and hasn't thought about what value that brings to them.
So, and it probably says, would you agree? I know it probably says something about how you value your own skill set that you bring. If you're saying, oh, only $50 or I'm $1,000 an hour, it tells the story for you.
Absolutely.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so if you had to start again with no money, what would be the first thing you do? It's probably hard to think back to that time, but if you had no money, what would be the first thing you do to start a coaching business? You've done all the personal development, you've read all the books, you've done all the seminars yourself, that type of thing, but you want to make that first step.
First thing, if I had no money, the first thing I would do is I would always come from a place of service. The more service that you offer, the more value that you add out into the marketplace, the more exposure that you get, the quicker that you will be rewarded for it. So I would either, one of my mantras is to be earning while you're learning. So I would potentially, maybe piggyback and align myself with an organization so I can contribute and give to them as much as possible, or find some way of getting exposure and being willing to get exposure for free. But just come from that place of service. Be there to serve as many people as possible, and be willing to learn as quickly as you can. I mean, that's always kind of been my approach. I mean, when I first started coaching, I've always, either joint ventured with other people or I've worked for other people, because earning while you're learning is quite critical. And, when you go out there and you first start working for yourself, it's a little bit like, I don't know if you've read the book, The E-Myth, Revisited by Michael Gerber, which is a great book, because you get, I love that book. He says, most bakers are brilliant at baking bread, but they've got no idea how to get customers into their store. So when you're first starting off, you might be great at baking bread, or you might be great at being a coach, but do you have the marketing skills? Do you have the sales skills? Do you have the finance skills? Do you have the management skills? Do you have all of those things in place? And sometimes that's quite a lot. So why not go and learn from somebody while you're earning at the same time, if that's possible at all? And that could be contractual work, part-time work, just joint venturing with other people, just mentors. So learning while you're earning is my mantra when you're first starting out.
So it could almost be, in some cases, people volunteer at events or, do little bits of paid work, but they're in the game. They're seeing it happen in someone else's game. Okay.
Absolutely. And, and just get started. Too often, people just want it to be perfect. It's never going to be perfect. You're never going to know whether or not it's the path that you want to go down. But just go down that path and you'll figure it out.
Excellent, man. Excellent. Okay, so just quickly, what's your favourite thing that you do? And why is that the favourite thing? What gets you excited?
Say again?
So what gets you excited? Like when something happens, you're just like, this is it. I love this so much.
Yeah, the favourite thing for me is creating a paradigm shift for somebody. It's where I might spend 6 days with somebody at like my wealth and lifestyle intensive program, or I might spend a weekend with somebody at my wealth and lifestyle summit, or it might be a coaching program, and you just see that something that's just sparked in them that that for whatever reason you've now made a lasting impression on that person. You now know that person, their entire lives is now taken a different direction because of something that I said or something that I did, and you just watch the lights come on and you just watch them go forward in their lives. Like, that's what I love to do. That's what I really love to do, is just to get people thinking differently, realizing that they're not stuck in the place that they're at, and that they can actually go out there and create something for themselves. That totally juices me up.
Awesome. Excellent. So, and what have you got coming down the pipeline? Sort of something a little bit further down the track that we should be looking out for?
For right now, I've got a couple of projects on the go. I've always been drawn to media. I've always been drawn to television. And as I think about my next path, I'm definitely going to be looking at potentially doing some stuff more on the television side and more on the media side of things for sure. So keep an eye out for some of those things there. And you never know, you might be seeing me on your television sometime real soon.
Excellent. All right, man. So where can people find out about you? What's some web addresses and Facebook pages and whatnot that someone likes what they see and they want to get in touch with you? Where do they go?
Yep. Thanks, Pete. The best place that people can get in touch with me, and if you were to ask me in one nutshell sentence, what am I about? I'm about designing a life that you love. So if you're somebody who wants to design a life that you love, I'm definitely your man for that. But the best thing that people can do is go to Jesus, early in the morning over here, man. I'm waking up.
All the W's.
Exactly. www.johnnycass.com. And Johnny Cass is spelled JOHNNIECASS.com. So it's www.johnnycass.com, or you can also get me on Facebook as well.
Awesome. And guys, I'm going to be putting some links down here, so this stuff will be easy to find. You just click on the link and go over and join his list, jump on his Facebook page, like it, and do all that cool stuff.
Yeah, and when they join onto my site there, they'll see that I've got my 7.5 video report on some of the things that we touched on today. 7.5 steps to creating a life that you love, and that's absolutely free for you guys.
I like that 7.5 thing. What's the significance with the half bit? Man, I saw that and I went, that's tops. I don't know why, but it's tops.
You know what? You'll have to go onto the site and you'll have to check it out for yourself.
Excellent.
Because the truth is, there's 7 steps, but the half is like, the return for following the 7 steps. So it's not actually technically a step. It's a return that you get for following the 7 steps.
Excellent. Well, Johnny, it's been great having you on the show, mate. And I look forward to all the things you got going on and seeing you on television one day. Or again.
Thanks, Pete. Take care, and thanks, everyone. And design a life that you love, guys.
Awesome. All right, see you, man.
Take care, Pete.